Hey everybody, it's Jenna. I am going to be doing a tutorial on these little mini hearts that are done in brick stitch, which is a very simple stitch to learn, and once you get the hang of it, it's just like second nature. These beaded hearts are everywhere, so it's not my original design. I've just seen them everywhere and they're just really easy to make. And so I like to use them as elements in my jewelry. So hope you enjoy. Okay, so these are some of the things that I've made with the heart. This little bead charm. This is still work in progress bead charm, but I'm just gonna do hearts on here. I've done little charm bracelets that just have a heart on each link. Those are super fun. And then this is actually peyote stitch, but I've also made this with brick stitch. It's just another fun, colorful thing that you can do with the heart pattern once you learn it. Okay, so when I cut my fireline, I like to give myself a wingspan. One, making something this size, it just gives me enough room to work with without being too much or too little, because there's nothing worse than being at the end of something and having to cut a new thread, especially if it's really small like this, because the brickwork gets really tight and hard to keep weaving back through. And we want to try to eliminate unnecessary passes through the beads, because I break a lot of beads and I break a lot of needles. Sometimes I do the same thing at once. Okay, so I like to put my stopping bead on, and I put it in the middle of my thread because I like to have two working sides, because I'm going to do the top of the heart and then the bottom of the heart. And then again, I don't have to keep going back through beads I've already worked with. Because when you finish, you still need to weave the ends through, and it's just much easier if we haven't had a ton of passes through our beads. Okay. So I got my silver Delicas. I use galvanized DuraCoat because I've used regular galvanized without knowing about the DuraCoat, and the finish is not fantastic at staying on those. So it's more money, but definitely worth the extra price to get the DuraCoat. And here's our opaque orange Delicas. I use size 11s, 15s. I can barely see, and then anything bigger than that. They also make a 8 and a 10. They're both too big for me for these purposes. Okay, so we're gonna start with ladder stitch to get our first 2 rows. So we're gonna pick up 2 silvers, one orange. Okay, we're gonna slide those down to our stopper bead. And then we're gonna go through that top silver bead. Okay, and so it just gives us this, makes like a little triangle. And we're gonna tie the 2 working threads in just a little knot, and just make sure that you're above your stopping bead when you do that. And that's gonna stop our work from sliding all around while we're trying to bead. Okay, so now we're ready for our 2-row ladder stitch. That's how I start brick stitch. I know there's another way to do it. I don't know how to do it, so I don't know if it's easier or harder, but this is what I'm used to and comfortable with. So I'm going to pick up orange bead, and you just keep going back and forth in a ladder style. Another orange. Another orange. Silver. Orange. Another orange bead. Orange bead. Okay, one more orange bead. Okay, now we're gonna add a silver bead to each row to finish off our ladder stitch. Okay, so I already have our stopper bead thread coming out the bottom part of the heart, and I like to work in two opposite directions. So I'm gonna weave this back going the other way. I'm gonna go through the bead next to it. Then I'm gonna come out through this third bead over so that I'll be able to come out facing the top of that silver bead. Go back in through our orange bead and then back up through the silver bead. Okay, make sure everything's real tight because sometimes you didn't pull tight on, you know, any of these beads in this ladder stitch, and then you'll have some unsightly threads kind of poking in between these Delicas later. Okay, so we're ready for our brick stitch. We're gonna be decreasing instead of increasing. It's why it's easiest, in my opinion, to either start in the middle or start at your widest part. So this row at the top was my widest part. Increasing is a pain because you need to keep going back through making multiple passes. It's just much easier to do decreases. So that is what I try to do, is give myself as many decreasing rows as I can. So we're gonna grab a silver and an orange. Every time you start a row, you pick up 2 beads. Every other stitch in the row is gonna be 1, but the first is always gonna be 2. So if we were doing an increasing, we would go to this first, in between these first 2 beads, this thread path. But we're gonna go to the second thread path to do a decreasing row. So I'm gonna put my needle under the thread path in between those 2 orange beads. Pull it down. Then I'm gonna go up through the orange bead, down through the silver, and back up through the orange. Okay, and you always want to make sure everything's sitting nicely. So I pull up, and if I have to, I'll kind of force these beads in place. They're supposed to be laying like bricks. So you can see how those are just falling into place nicely. And I'm going to pick up a silver bead, just one. Go under the next thread path. And back up through the bead. Pick up another silver. Go through the next thread path. And then up through the bead. Okay, we need an orange bead. Put your needle through or underneath the next thread path. And back up through the bead. You always want to pull tight. Make sure your thread is all the way through. Silver bead, needle under the thread path, and back up through the bead. Okay, so this is the top of our heart on this left side. And this is a new row, so we're picking up 2 beads. Sometimes these beads just don't want to cooperate. Okay, so another decreasing row. We don't go through our first thread path between the silver and the orange. We go through the next thread path between the orange and the silver. Go under the thread path. Pull it. Go up through the first silver bead. Down through the next one. And back up. Okay, so I need to stitch this side. I don't want to have to come all the way up here through this heart with this thread, and then I want to be able to just use that thread to get working on this bottom of the heart. So I'm gonna go back down through this silver bead next to this one. I'm gonna go down through this orange bead. Down through this orange bead. Okay, so now I'm gonna come up through these 2 silver beads on this side to get through to finish up this right side. Okay, so up through this silver bead here. Okay, so now I need 2 silver beads. Another decreasing row, so I'm gonna go to the next thread path, the second thread path in my row here. Thread under my thread path, pull it through, It's already getting tight there from multiple passes, so down through. Oh, sorry, I'm doing anchored bead stitch, which is what I normally do. It's a more difficult stitch, but it keeps everything much more tight, but it's harder to learn. So I'll do a video on how to do that, but this is just easier if you're more of a beginner. Okay, so we're gonna go up through our silver bead, down through our other silver bead, and back up. Okay. Gonna pull tight, make sure everything's lined up nicely. Okay, so that's the top of our heart. I'm gonna take the thread out, rethread for our bottom, take this stopper bead out. Rethread our needle. Again, trying to put the needle eye through the thread. Works so much better. It works maybe like takes me 5 tries instead of 20 if I try to do the other way. Without a magnifying glass, it's hard. Okay, so we're gonna start on our bottom row, or on our bottom part of our heart. I'm gonna pick up a silver and an orange. Do another decreasing row. So we're gonna put our needle underneath our thread path. Go up through the orange bead. Down through our silver bead. Back up through our orange bead. Gonna pick up an orange bead. Go under our next thread path. Back up through the bead. Pick up another orange. Needle under the thread path. If this wants to cooperate with me. What is happening here? Okay. Nothing worse than breaking a bead when you're in the middle of a project, especially a big one. So I try to be patient when I'm having problems with the thread or the needle, and I just wiggle it a little bit, just work it gently so that I don't break anything. It's the worst. Okay, silver bead under the thread path. Back up through our silver bead. Okay, next row. We're almost there. We got silver bead. Oh, come on. silver, orange, underneath that second thread path. Up through the orange. Down through the silver. Up through the orange. Make sure it's lined up nice and tight. Let's grab an orange bead under the thread path. Back up through the orange bead. Pick up a silver bead. Needle under the thread path. And back up through our silver bead. Okay. Picking up a silver, orange, needle under the second thread path. Up through the orange bead. Down through the silver bead. Back up through the orange. Pull it tight. Silver bead. Under the thread path. Up through the silver bead. Okay, time for our final row. So we just have this last little bit to do. Gonna get 2 silver beads. We go through or underneath our second thread path. Up through the silver. Down through the next bead. And back up. Now, some people that I see, they'll put one more row with just one bead. I can't find a way to do it that doesn't look wonky to me. So I just like to leave them like this with the orange bead and then the nice outline. So hope